Why do businesses offering exactly same product to the same market often experience completely different outcomes? One thrives while the other struggles to survive. What creates such a gap? The answer often boils down to a concept that's easy to overlook yet critical for achieving consistent results. It's business processes. See, most people think it's about having a better product or throwing more money at marketing. While this may be true in some cases, I would like to focus today's video on something else. Just 150 years ago, the business game was completely different. Back then, if you could secure capital and create decent product that somewhat met customer needs, you were pretty much guaranteed for a success. That was it. Your biggest challenge was just getting started. But today, we are living in an era of unprecedented complexity. Every business decision involves dozens of moving parts, multiple software systems, and countless variables. It's not just about having capital anymore, it's about navigating the maze of complexity while staying consistent and scalable. Think about McDonald's for a second. Whether you're grabbing a Big Mac in Tokyo, New York, or Moscow at 3 a.m., it tastes exactly the same. Not kind the same, exactly the same. That's not magic, and it's definitely not luck. That's what I call a process perfection. And it's the same secret that separates industry leaders from companies that are just surviving. This video, I will answer questions I'd love someone had explained to me in the beginning of my career. I will explain a bit of context of business processes and how we ended up in such complexity. Explain what is business process, what types of business processes exist and what they are best for, when to start working on your business process, and finally, how to describe them. My name is Jeff Tyler and I'm a full-time consultant and technology evangelist. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit like to this video if you like what I'm doing, and let's jump to the video. To truly understand where we are today with business processes, we need to take a journey back to the mid-18th century. The concept of business processes has roots that might surprise you, and it all started with a thought experiment about making pins. In 1776, Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, where he introduced a revolutionary idea through a theoretical example of pin manufacturing. While he didn't actually visit a pin factory, Smith's thought experiment became the foundation of how we think about business processes today. Smith proposed that a single craftsperson making pins from the start to finish may produce just a handful per day. But by breaking down the work into the specialized tasks, drawing out the wire, cutting it, sharpening the point, attaching the head, a small team could produce thousands. He theorized that 10 workers, each specializing in specific steps, could produce 48,000 pins a day. This wasn't just about making more pins. It was first time someone had formally conceptualized how breaking down complex work into defined, repeatable steps could dramatically improve efficiency. Think about that for a moment. The same principles Smith outlined in his theoretical example are exactly what we're doing today when we map out a business process, just with different tools and at a different scale. Until around 1950s, most business processes were dictated by the need to mechanize production. Every assembly line, every factory floor layout, every production schedule was essentially a physical manifestation of these principles. The focus was simple. How do we break down complex tasks into repeatable, efficient steps? While the core principle of breaking down work into defined steps hasn't changed since Smith's time, the way we implement these processes has undergone a radical transformation. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, and surprisingly, not much has fundamentally changed. Yes, we had more machines, better tools, but business processes remained largely manual, documented in thick binders of procedures and workflows. The real revolution was yet to come. Then something unprecedented happened: the digital transformation. Suddenly, business processes weren't constrained by physical limitations anymore. We could automate not just physical tasks, but decision-making processes. What started as a simple data entry automation evolved into a complex, interconnected system that could handle everything from customer service to supply chain management. The irony, while technology made these things more efficient, it's also introduced levels of complexity that would have been unimaginable in Smith's time. A modern business process might involve dozens of software systems, multiple departments, and artificial intelligence, or working together and simultaneously. It's both more powerful and more complex than anything our business ancestors could have imagined. Which is a great time to answer the most important question: what is a business process? But before we answer the question, let me thank sponsor of today's video, my company Monthly. Monthly is my CRM consulting company. If you need help describing, analyzing, systemizing, or improving your company's business processes, let's have a conversation. You know the game. Link in the description below. So what is a business process? At its core, a business process is a series of coordinated activities designed to achieve specific business goal. It transforms various inputs like material, information, or requests into defined outputs that create value for the organization or its customers. In simple words, think of a business process as a recipe. Just as a recipe tells you what ingredients you need and what steps to follow to create a dish, a business process lays out all the necessary resources, people, and actions needed to complete a business task successfully. Each step builds on the previous one, and if you follow the process correctly, you get a consistent, valuable result every time. Take order processing, for example. Whether it's a customer placing an order through your e-commerce platform, calling your sales team, or walking up into your store counter, each interaction triggers a carefully designed sequence of actions. Another process example is supplier invoice management. It's a journey that begins when bill lands in your inbox and concludes with that satisfying moment when payment reaches your supplier's account. Capital asset acquisition is perhaps one of my favorite examples of a complex business process. It's where strategic decision-making meets practical execution, involving everything from needs assessment to final purchase approval. Here's where it gets interesting and challenging. These processes are as diverse as the businesses they serve. Through my experience, I've learned that trying to apply a one-size-fits-all approach is like trying to use a hammer for every home repair job. It simply doesn't work. Some processes are prime candidates for automation, like routine invoice processing or order fulfillment. Others, like strategic planning or creative product development, require human insights and intuition that borders with artistry. This diversity raises an important question that we will explore next. How do we effectively describe and document these varied processes to ensure they consistently deliver value? To answer that question, we first have to understand types of business processes. There are three, and I found that understanding these is crucial for any business leader trying to navigate today's technology-driven landscape. Let me walk you through each type and share what I've learned from both running my own business and advising others. First and most commonly thought about type of business process is operational. Think of operational processes as your business's engine. They're the core activities that directly create value for your customers. In manufacturing, this is your production line. In a law company, it's actual legal work. In restaurant, it's everything from food preparation to service delivery. Let me share an example from a metal manufacturing client I work with. Just 5 years ago, their production line relied heavily on human operations making real-time decisions about quality control. Today, they've implemented AI-powered visual inspection systems that can detect defects with 99.9% accuracy, which is far beyond what human eyes could achieve. But here's what's really transformative. Modern operational processes aren't just about replacing human labor with machines. They're about creating entirely new possibilities. Take legal services, for instance. I recently watched a law firm completely reinvent contract management process. Their AI system doesn't just draft contracts. It learns from every negotiation, identifies patterns in client preferences, and even predicts potential points of contention before they arise. What used to take days now happens in hours with better accuracy and consistency. Next on my list are managerial processes. This is where I see most dramatic shift happening right now. These are your strategic and tactical decision-making processes: planning, budgeting, performance management, and strategy development. Traditionally, we've treated these purely as human domains, and for a good reason. How do you automate judgment calls about market expansion or strategic partnerships? But here's what's changing. Modern technology isn't trying to replace management decision-making. It's transforming how those decisions are made. Let me paint you a picture of what these tools look like in practice. One of my clients, a retail chain owner, used to spend hours in weekly meetings trying to understand store performance and make inventory decisions. Today, their digital management dashboard provides real-time insights into sales patterns across all locations, inventory levels and automatic reorder suggestions, staff performance metrics, customer feedback analysis, and predictive analytics for upcoming seasonal demands. The key shift isn't that the system makes decisions for them. It's that managers now have unprecedented visibility into their business's operations. They're making faster, better informed decisions based on real data rather than gut feeling. Finally, let's talk about supportive processes, the behind-the-scenes functions that keep your business running smoothly, like IT, HR, accounting, facilities management. They aren't just back office functions anymore. They are becoming strategic enablers of business success. When I started consulting for a manufacturing client, their maintenance processes were scattered across paper logs and disconnected spreadsheets and undocumented tribal knowledge. Today, they use integrated asset management platform that handles equipment performance monitoring, preventive maintenance scheduling, spare parts inventory management, work order tracking, and compliance documentation. But here is what really excites me about modern supportive processes. They are becoming predictive rather than reactive. Their maintenance system doesn't just track equipment performance, it can predict potential failures and suggest preventive actions before breakdowns occur. Their inventory management doesn't just record stock levels. It forecasts demand patterns and suggests optimal ordering strategies based on historical data and seasonal trends. What's truly revolutionary isn't just how each type of process has evolved, but how they are becoming increasingly interconnected. I'm seeing businesses where operational data automatically feeds into management dashboards, triggering supportive process workflows without any human intervention. For example, when a manufacturing client's production line, which is operations process, detects a quality issue, it automatically updates management dashboards in real time, managerial process, triggers maintenance scheduling, which is supportive process, adjusts inventory orders, which is operational process, updates financial forecast, which is managerial process, and initiates staff training requests, which is, again, supportive. This level of integration was science fiction just decades ago. Now it's becoming a standard practice, and that's what makes understanding these process types so crucial for modern business leaders. Now, at this point, you may be asking, all that is really nice and sounds really motivating, except when it doesn't. Where do I start implementing something like that into my own business? Which brings me to the next topic, when to define and document business process. One of the most common challenges I encounter when advising small and medium-sized businesses is the confusion between business processes and procedures. Let me share a story that perfectly illustrates this. I once worked with a medical clinic that proudly showed me their business process documentation. It was a 50-page manual detailing every single click in their patient management system. That wasn't a business process, it was a procedure. Here's the key distinction that took me years to fully digest. A business process is your high-level workflow, the what and why of your operations. A procedure, on the other hand, is detailed how, your step-by-step instructions. Think of it like this. Patient's care is a business process, while how to schedule an appointment is a procedure. The question I get asked most often is, when should I actually sit down and document my business processes? Well, from my experience, there are three clear signs that it's time to get your processes documenting. The first, let's call it red flag, is when you notice people constantly asking, who handles this or what happens next? I recently worked with a company that was drowning in customer support tickets, not because they couldn't handle the volume, but because no one knew who was responsible for what. The moment we mapped out their customer service process, the confusion disappeared almost overnight. Another clear sign is when you see the same problem occurring repeatedly. The same client I just talked about was dealing with the frequent customer complaints about delayed orders. When we mapped their fulfillment process, we discovered three different departments were doing a redundant check, while a critical step wasn't being done at all. Without seeing the entire process laid out, these inefficiencies had remained hidden in plain sight. And the third point is when you need to ensure everyone is working the same way. This becomes especially crucial as your business grows. Just last month, I helped a chemical company document their user onboarding process. Without a clear process, each team had developed their own way of doing things, making collaboration nearly impossible. Remember, you don't need to wait for problems to arise. You can start documenting processes from day one of your business. The key is to keep it simple initially and let the documentation evolve as your business grows. Start with basic flowchart. You can always add more details later when the situation demands it, which naturally brings me to the next topic, how to document business process. Now, there are two main approaches to documenting business process. Let me walk you through both of them. And the first one is BPMN, Business Process Model and Notation. BPMN is the heavyweight champion in the corporate world. It's what about 2/3 of large companies use for their process documentation. It's like the Latin of business process language, if you will. It's very precise, widely recognized, but sometimes unnecessarily complex. I have to admit that I have a love-hate relationship with BPMN. While it's incredibly powerful and precise, I sometimes suspect it was invented by consultants to ensure they would always have work. The notation uses specific shapes for different types of actions, swim lanes for showing who's responsible for what, and detailed symbols for every possible scenario. Now here's my personal favorite, the humble flowchart. I recommend this approach to most of my clients, especially when they are just starting to document their processes. Why? Because anyone can understand a flowchart. You can literally draw one on a napkin during lunch and have your team grasp it immediately. I remember working with a startup that had overcomplicated their process documentation with BPMN. After weeks of confusion, we switched to simple flowcharts and discovered that their process was described incorrectly. They couldn't have noticed that because of complexity of BPM notation. Flowchart gave much needed simplicity and visibility. The beauty of flowchart lies in their flexibility. You can start simple, just boxes and arrows, and add complexity as needed. They are perfect for iterating and refining processes because you can modify them quickly without needing specialized software or training. Here is something I learned from years of implementing business processes. The most elegant documentation is worthless if your team can't use it. I watched companies invest months in complex BPMN diagrams only to have their teams ignore them and continue with their own methods. Let me share 3 practical principles that consistently work. First, start with flowcharts. Even if you think your processes are complex, flowcharts are intuitive, easy to modify, and everyone can understand them immediately. Think of it like building a house. You start with basic floor plan before diving into detailed architectural drawings. Second, save BPMN for when your processes are stable and well understood. And finally, prioritize adaptability over perfection. Your process documentation should be like your good GPS, showing the best route while being able to recalculate when conditions change. In today's fast-moving business environment, the ability to adapt quickly often matters more than having perfect documentation. Which brings us to the end of today's video. We covered how business processes evolved from Adam Smith's pin factory to today's AI-driven automation, what a business process actually is, and why it's more than just a set of procedures. The 3 main types of business processes, operational, managerial, and supportive, and how they shape an organization. When and why you should document your business processes to improve clarity, efficiency, and consistency. And finally, the best approaches to documenting business processes from simple flowcharts to structured BPMN. On that note, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you need help with your company's business processes, check out my company website in the description below. Have a good one. Peace.